I lived in a small farming town, tucked away in the corner of Idaho. The air was crisp and fresh, the kind that you can't really find in cities anymore. The cows I tended to weren't just livestock, they were family. My mornings were slow, peaceful. Just me, a warm thermos of coffee, and the endless pasture. This life was everything I had ever wanted: quiet, simple, and mine. Nothing could spoil it. Or so I thought. It was a Tuesday morning, cool enough that you could see your breath in the air, but warm enough that the sun still kissed your skin in all the right ways. I was leaning on the fence, sipping my coffee, watching my cows chew their grass like they had all the time in the world. Everything was as it should be, predictable, calm. Then, out of nowhere, a white SUV appeared at the gate. It wasn't just any SUV, though. This one had mirrors that sparkled brighter than the surface of a freshly waxed car. I knew who it was before she even stepped out. It was Karen Levinson, president of the local HOA. If you've ever dealt with someone like her, you know the type: small, petty, and obsessed with control. She had a clipboard in hand like she was ready to write me up for breathing too loudly. "Good morning, Jack," she said, her voice oozing with forced politeness. I didn't even look up. "Karen," I nodded. The fancy folder in her hand told me this wasn't a social call. Her heels clicked on the gravel like she was on a mission. "I've come to deliver some good news," she said, opening the folder with a flourish, as if she were presenting me a golden ticket. "The county's transportation committee has approved a temporary easement through your east pasture for a few weeks. Emergency detour access for road work on Mill Creek." I raised an eyebrow. "Without my signature?" She flashed the papers at me, offering them like a blessing. But the signature line? Blank. The form, looking official at first, lost its charm when I noticed that little detail. "Nice forgery," I said, handing it back. "But no signature means no deal." Her nostrils flared. "Jack, you're being difficult. This is for the community. You're obstructing progress." I couldn't hold back a small laugh. "My cows don't care about community progress, Karen. And neither do my property rights." Right on cue, Officer Travis, a local cop and my late wife's godson, pulled up in his dusty cruiser. Karen's face lit up. She must have thought she'd won the lottery. "Officer, he's denying public access to an approved detour route," she announced dramatically. Travis glanced at the papers, then at me. He looked almost amused. "Jack, you okay?" "Peachy," I said with a grin. "Just protecting my land from illegal invasions in yoga pants." Travis turned to Karen. "Ma'am, this document lacks the property owner's consent. That makes it a non-starter." Karen's face turned beet red. "But it's essential infrastructure," she spat. "Doesn't matter," Travis said, his voice calm. "It's private land. You're trespassing." She turned on her heel and stormed back to her SUV, nearly tripping over a cowpie in the process. "This isn't over, Jack," she yelled as she slammed the door. "You've made an enemy." The SUV peeled out, kicking up gravel, and I stood there, sipping my coffee, watching the dust settle. It never really started, I muttered to myself. I thought that was it. I thought it was over. But that was just the spark. And Karen? She had the gasoline. 2 days later, I noticed a drone hovering over my pasture. It wasn't one of mine. This one was sleek, quiet, and, frankly, a little too curious. It circled the cows, darting in and out, like it was taking notes. The damn thing had the audacity to blink a red light at me before flying off like it had done something sneaky. Then it came back. This time, it hovered near the irrigation station, scanning the area like it was prepping for a heist. I watched it, chewing on a piece of hay, glaring at it like Clint Eastwood with a shovel instead of a gun. The third time the drone came, I had enough. It was circling the fence, clearly scouting for something, probably my land. I'd had enough of Karen's games. I asked Luis, my ranch hand, if he had seen the drones. He grinned sheepishly and told me he had caught some footage for his vlog. Farm fuel, he called it. Behind-the-scenes stuff for people who liked real life without the filters. As we went over the footage, Luis froze the screen on a shot of Karen, pacing in her yard, on the phone. Her words? "I already signed the letter of intent, but they won't close without confirmed access through the back gate. That old bastard won't budge. I don't care what it takes. Scare him, shame him, wear him down. He'll fold. He always does." I felt a chill run down my spine. This wasn't about a detour. This was about selling my land. Karen wasn't fighting for her neighbors, she was fighting for a paycheck. And she was willing to go to any length to get it. The next few days were a blur. Sabotage started slow, then escalated. First, it was the padlock on the gate cut clean in two. Then came the boot prints in the soil fresh, not mine, not Luis's. Someone had been on my land, and they were getting bolder. I installed motion lights, but someone smashed two of them the very next night. Then came the worst of it, spray-painted threats on my front fence. Open the road or sell, it said, in sloppy red lettering. That wasn't just petty. That was dangerous. Luis and I spent hours fixing everything, checking every gate, tightening security. I could see it in his eyes. He was scared, and I couldn't blame him. Then came the night it all blew up. I was sitting alone in the kitchen, staring at the footage Luis had captured, nursing a bottle of rye. My land, my peace, was being ripped apart by a woman who saw it all as a game. It made me sick. I should have called the cops, but I didn't want to wait for justice. I wanted to handle this myself. The next day, chaos. The irrigation system was leaking. Someone had smashed a valve with a crowbar. Water shot out, flooding the field like a geyser. I stood there, furious, soaked, watching the land I had worked so hard for turn to chaos. Luis looked at me, his voice shaking. They're trying to break you. And that's when I knew it wasn't just about the land anymore. It was about standing my ground. I wasn't going to let her win. 2 nights later, I heard Ida low, grinding roar followed by a deafening crack. My barn shook. I ran outside. My worst fear was standing before me. Karen's SUV had crashed through my fence, destroyed my gate, and wrecked the irrigation system. She was slumped in the driver's seat, half drunk, a nearly empty bottle of white wine beside her. You ruined everything, she screamed, her voice trembling with rage. You ruined my chance. I looked past her. There, lying in the wreckage, was Maggie, my calf, the one I delivered myself. She was dead. I felt no rage, no anger, just emptiness. Luis dropped to his knees beside her, whispering her name, tears in his eyes. And that's when I knew. I was done being patient, done waiting for the law to step in. Officer Trav arrived, and Karen's fate was sealed. He found the wine bottle and the unsigned contract in her car. It wasn't just trespassing anymore. It was intent. Karen was arrested. She went from HOA president to criminal in one swift motion. As they loaded her into the cruiser, she screamed about betrayal, about how I had forced her hand. I wasn't listening anymore. I was standing by Maggie's body, feeling like part of me had died with her. The video Luis posted went viral. It spread like wildfire. The whole town knew what she had done. The headline said it all. HOA president destroys farm, kills calf in drunken rampage. It wasn't enough for me to see her behind bars. I needed more. I needed her to face the consequences for what she had done. At her trial, the evidence was overwhelming. The footage, the records, the trail of destruction she left behind it was all there. Her defense was pathetic, claiming stress and manipulation. But the judge wasn't HOA-ing it. Karen was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read. The judge turned to me and acknowledged the emotional toll. The court recognizes the total material loss to be due lot $240,000, she said. The HOA that supported the defendant's actions is jointly liable. The courtroom erupted in whispers as Karen's smug face finally cracked. I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel triumph. I just felt exhausted. The farm? It didn't go quiet after the trial. It got louder. Neighbors came by to congratulate me, but I wasn't in the mood for celebrations. Luis's channel exploded, but he didn't make a circus out of it. He focused on rebuilding. Months later, the ranch felt different. The gates were stronger. The fences were reinforced. But most importantly, it felt like home again. The quiet kind of peace. The kind you earn. The community? It came together. People brought pie. They even brought a metal sign, respect the gate, respect the land. I hung it proudly. A year later, we held an open house. Kids ran through the fields. People danced near the silo. And as I stood by the new gate, I realized something important. It wasn't just about keeping people out. It was about knowing who you let in. As I watched the kids play, I heard one ask, "Did the cow really die?" I nodded. She was special. But people remember her. That's something. And with that, the farm finally felt like it was mine again. But as for Karen, well, she'd been buried by the truth. What do you think? Did I get it right? What's your take on this situation? Should people like Karen be held accountable in the same way, or is it a little too far? Let me know in the comments.